Hello everyone, I'm Babli Jonathan and this is the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinox Television live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. We welcome in our top stories tonight. The G20, the group of 20 opposition political parties who decided to rally behind the President of the Republic, condemned the outing of Professor Maurice Kamto of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, who they say declared himself winner of the 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon. Cameroon says the election unfolded hitch-free, and of course another candidate at the October 7, 2018 presidential election in Cameroon, Prophet Franklin Difon, says he will accept the results of the election if everything is done in transparency. And the conveners of the All Anglophone General Conference call on both parties involved in the Anglophone crisis, that is the pro-independence fighters and government or the military, to cease fire in the two Anglophone regions of the country for peace to reign. Details coming up next. Days after Sunday's presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon, officials of the election organizing body Elections Cameroon met in the nation's political capital to discuss and evaluate the unfolding of the election. However, they did not mention anything concerning the issue of fake transparency. International election observers, which is making news in the Republic of Cameroon after the non-governmental organization said it did not send observers to the Republic of Cameroon, and that statement came after some individuals presented themselves in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, to the press as observers of Transparency International, and said the elections unfolded hitch-free despite some few irregularities recorded in some polling stations across the country. And Elections Cameroon has equally said the elections unfolded hitch-free. Take a listen to NDONG Abrams Egbe. He is the chairperson of the Electoral Council of Elections Cameroon.
Population to go to the polls, despite an outstanding timidity observed in certain localities. We strongly decry the sometimes belated arrival or even more, almost widespread absence of representatives of certain candidates in the polling stations, despite our insistent reminders. It is important to state that these representatives benefited from the capacity training before the elections. As of this day, the general observation reveals that the election was conducted free and fair in an atmosphere of serenity and calm. This enabled the polling stations to conduct vote counting in a conducive environment, whose reports were forwarded to the various Divisional Supervisory Commission as per the provisions of Section 62 of the Electoral Code. As at now, the National Commission for Final Vote Counting of Votes is already at work for the final counting before transmission to the Constitutional Council in accordance with Section 137 of the Electoral Code. We therefore exhort all candidates to demonstrate maximum restraint and wait for the proclamation of results. Ladies and gentlemen, if 2018 can be described as that of major political events which graced the life of our institution and our country as a whole, the same could be said of 2019, during which ever more greater challenges await us, notably the preparation and organization of the legislative and municipal elections. This means that we don't have to relent our efforts, but we must, without any delay, get back to work.
NDONG Abrams Egbe, chairperson of the Electoral Council of Elections Cameroon, speaking there, and the presidential candidate of the Cameroon National Citizens Movement, CNCM, political party, Prophet Franklin Difon, has equally issued a statement concerning the presidential election of last Sunday, and he said that he's going to accept all the results that will be published by the Constitutional Council within a deadline of 15 days, if and only if the compilation and of course the publication are done within the ambits of transparency. And he equally called on Cameroonians to remain peaceful because he is a prophet of peace, and that they should remain calm and wait for the verdict of the ballot box. Take a listen to Prophet Franklin Difon Afani.
Cameroonians, I speak to you today inspired by God my personality as a man of God who doubles as a presidential candidate, I want to call the attention of all Cameroonians living in Cameroon and out of Cameroon regarding these presidential elections that took place this 7th October 2018. I call on all Cameroonians to stay calm, stay away from provocations and anger until the final proclamation of the results. For my case, if everything is done transparently, I will welcome every outcome of the results of these presidential elections as an ambassador of peace in the nation of Cameroon.
Prophet Franklin Difon, presidential candidate of the Cameroon National Citizens Movement political parties, speaking there, and a group of 20 opposition political parties who decided to rally behind the President of the Republic of Cameroon, Paul Biya, as far as the October 7, 2018 presidential election is concerned, have equally issued a statement. And in that statement, they condemned the press statement of Professor Maurice Kamto, presidential candidate of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, who said he scored the penalty and that the people gave him a mandate that he will fight for and protect right up to victory. Take a listen to this declaration.
The 7th October 2018 presidential election confirmed the maturity of our people and their deep desire to implement the changes they hope for. In peace and democracy, they cast their ballot votes. Mobilized to express.
That was a declaration of the G20 political party leaders who met in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, to talk about the presidential election, and I indicated earlier that they condemned the outing of Professor Maurice Kamto on the presidential election. Take a listen.
Group of 20 opposition political parties to support the candidacy of His Excellency Paul Biya congratulates the Cameroonian people for their political maturity and responsibility shown throughout the presidential electoral campaigns and votes, while firmly condemning the self-proclamation of the alleged victory by Mr. Kamto Maurice. The group of 20 opposition political parties wish to recall that the road that our country has traveled since independence has been marked by immense difficulties. Only our bravery has allowed us to draw some benefits that we must cherish and defend with all our strength and patriotism. Even if much remains to be done, leaving no centimeter to the devil. Let us close our ears to destructive manipulations. Do not hear negative calls made by Mr. Kamto, because his poor attempt to destabilize our national unity and integrity has failed. Cameroonians will not offer him the opportunity or pay the least attention.
And we are receiving the Secretary General of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement CRM political party, Barrister Christopher NDONG, member of the Cameroon Bar Association. Barrister, what's your reaction to this declaration?
In fact, I've listened keenly to the declaration. It falls short of a lot of facts concerning what he just said. Professor Maurice Kamto is a professor of law and the president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, a presidential candidate. And of course, if you look at the law, what he declared, he said he has scored the penalty. It is an indication that he is within the law. If you look at the electoral law, you address yourself to section 113 of the Electoral Code, you will realize that the declaration made by Professor Maurice Kamto falls in line with that section of the law, because that area of the law states that elections will be made public, proclaimed publicly at the level of the polling station. And so therefore, you cannot attempt to attack somebody who is merely transmitting what is public to a crime. Because that statement, in fact, he made was just confirming what all the presidents in all the polling stations, in all the areas of the Republic of Cameroon declared in the evening of the 7th. But a public statement can never be made again public when it is public.
But a group of 20 opposition political parties who have rallied behind President Paul Biya, just like the Minister of Communication and Government spokesperson Issa Chiroma Bakari, as well as the Secretary General of the CPDM political party, attribute the intention to bring violence and destabilize the country to a press statement of Professor Maurice Kamto.
After the declaration made by Professor Maurice Kamto, there were no statistics attached to it. You cannot say he declared the presidential elections. What I want to make clear to listeners is that the election results start coming in. Vision Cat was calling figures. CRTV was calling figures. Other channels, even Equinox, was calling figures. Those are people who made public the results. Maurice Kamto is a presidential aspirant and participated in this election and is confident and says the report and declaration that were made in all the polling stations where the Cameroon Renaissance Movement had representative showed a sign of winning in the polls. So you cannot deny the fact that the Cameroon Renaissance Movement won in those areas, and of course we have the details to prove. We cannot come on television to prove whether we won or not. He has said, when Kamto started his campaign, he was moving around with a ball. And that ball and a jersey. You hardly see him in 3/4 of his campaign. He was moving with a ball and a jersey and said, Cameroonians, there is a penalty that has been blown, and there is somebody who will take the kick, and he called on Cameroonians to give him the opportunity to take that kick. And he took the kick, and he's declaring that he has scored the goal.
But some legal minds like you have equally been joining the government to say that Professor Maurice Kamto violated the electoral code.
Not me, and all legal minds that address themselves to that particular statement, in fact, fell short of section 113 of the Electoral Code. The elections were already made public. So it is not Maurice Kamto that came and made it public. He only came and said, I have scored the penalty that you people asked me to kick.
And you're confident that you and your candidates and of course your political party are moving to victory?
We are moving to victory because given the reports that are pouring in, we are having positive results concerning the elections at the polls.
Barrister Christophe Andong, thanks for coming. That was the Secretary General of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, CRM political party. On to something else now. The conveners of the Anglophone General Conference gathered here in the economic capital Douala yesterday to discuss issues concerning the organization of that conference and of course even issues concerning the October 7, 2018 presidential election in the Republic of Cameroon. Now, here's an extract of the spokesperson of the All Anglophone or the Anglophone General Conference, Dr. Simon Munzo.
Are driven solely by their desire to see an end to the multitude of suffering of all types that the Anglophone crisis is causing to the affected populations of the Southwest and Northwest regions, and whose impact is now beginning to be felt seriously in other regions of the country as well. They repeat their call to all the men and women of the Northwest and Southwest regions living at home or abroad to make the necessary sacrifices, even in these difficult times, to attend the Anglophone General Conference massively, and by so doing, contribute directly to our collective search for a final, lasting and satisfactory solution to the Anglophone problem and the Anglophone crisis in Cameroon.
And the Anglophone General Conference will take place from the 21st to the 22nd of November 2018. A budget of 32,346,800 francs CFA has been adopted for that event, and the fundraising will be starting very soon. Now we talk about efforts of the Ministry of Mines, Industries and Technological Development to enhance industrialization in the Republic of Cameroon. Yesterday, the Minister of Mines, Enes Gwabubu, was in Jombe, Penja, to take stock of the exploitation of pozzolan in that part of the country, and the ministry is taking steps to raise that activity from the crude method of exploitation to the industrial method of exploitation. We have details in this report. Exploitation of pozzolan have been going on in this quarry in Jombe, Penja in difficult and dangerous conditions. Cameroonians from this locality in the littoral region and other parts of Cameroon working here were exposed to enormous risk of accidents because of the difficult nature of the terrain and the use of inappropriate extraction methods and equipments. And this is why government, through the Ministry of Mines, Industries and Technological Development, came in to propel the activity to industrial standards of pozzolan exploitation in a bid to downplay the aforementioned challenges and risks. It is for this purpose that the Minister of Mines, Industries and Technological Development visited the site Thursday.
Before granting a permit to them, you have to come and watch what they are doing. All is well here, it is clean, and they respect what has been decided in the decision which has given them an authorization.
Il y a quand même quelques fils et filles de Njombe qui ont été recrutés dans cette entreprise.
The mayor of Njombe, Penja, Kahab Jean-Pierre, explains that the activity generates employment for inhabitants of his municipality, especially young people, and contributes significantly to the income of the council and the development and well-being of the area and its people. In sports, the indomitable Lions of Cameroon have returned to the winning ways in the Africa Cup of Nations 2019 qualification. They defeated a struggling Malawi side earlier today at the Amadou Aïdjo Stadium in the nation's capital, Yaoundé. In their last two games, the boys of coach Clarence Seedorf were held to a 1-1 draw with Comoros and a loss 0-1 against Burkina Faso. And coming up in Talking Points, we shall discuss the issue concerning the detainees of the Anglophone crisis, notably Sisiku Ayuktabe and his collaborators who were arrested in the Federal Republic of Nigeria and brought back to the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, where they have been detained at the State Defense Secretariat. And we are with the lead defense counsel of the detainees. Barrister, you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Now, yesterday you were at the appeal court in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, the appeal court of the Center region. What happened at the court yesterday?
Well, that was the second hearing in the Court of Appeal of the Center, and we were expecting the leaders to have been brought before the judge. Once again, they were not brought, so the judge made a comment and asked us to observe. And we started with Barrister NDONG, who made a submission. I made a submission, and when Barrister Young in Bamenda was about to talk, we had a dramatic change because the colonel who is in charge of SED walked in, and that was dramatic. The judge said, now we have been waiting for the detainees. What can you tell us about the detainees? Then he said he only saw the production warrant on social media, and that he just came because he saw it on social media, that it was never served. But the state.
What can explain that?
Yes, the state council, the state department, represented by Avocat General, proved to him the proof of service that he had been served. And
are you saying that it was a lie?
I don't want to go that far, but I said it was so embarrassed, and the judge noticed that, and the judge gave an order that on the 1st of November, next hearing, he must bring those people before her court. And he took an engagement that he was going to bring them.
Barrister Fujon, so when you look at all of these elements that you're highlighting,
yes.
Would you attribute it to coincidence or political manipulation?
It's a well planned out marginalization. Yes, a planned out procedure to do whatever they want to do with the leaders. But it is getting late because the political climate is getting the way it's getting, and we expect that when the winner of this election, which we expect that it will not be Mr. Biya, when the winner of this election the first order of the day is to release every single Southern Cameroonian detained since the beginning of this crisis.
Now, when you look at this case concerning Sisiku, Ayuk Tabe, and the other detainees, and you see what is happening, is there a legal explanation to the fact that till today, since they were brought back to the country, nobody has seen them, or they have not been brought to court? The public has not seen them?
For more than 7 months counting, nobody saw them. They were detained incommunicado underground. They didn't see light. They didn't see anything for 7 months. Until after the international cry, they opened up for the families and implanted their own lawyers to see them and work with them.
Is there any legal explanation?
Yeah, there's no legal explanation for all that, because the law allows only 24 hours renewable once, so that you be charged or sent to the parquet. Now,
you're requesting for habeas corpus now?
Habeas corpus is immediate release for being illegally detained by this government. It is no longer within the ambit of the law. It is the government that is holding them the way they are holding them.
And even what you're requesting for seems to be too far as of now.
Oh no! Let's wait and see. History will prove us wrong. Let's wait and see if the political climate, the political situation does not catch up with them. Let's wait and see. That is my only explanation. All I can say is that their cup of tea is full.
In the next hearing, what are you going to put on the table?
I want to say that if they are still in detention by the next hearing, we are hoping that they will be before the judge, and then we will plead our case and show legally that they were illegally abducted, illegally arrested, flown into this country, taking refugees from who have run away from this country, denouncing the citizenship of this country from another country where they are seeking refuge, and brought here illegally, and therefore they should be released immediately. And we are hoping that the judge, given her demeanor so far, will listen to us.
Illegally arrested. What do you make of the charges leveled?
They were not illegally. They were adopted. They were kidnapped. That is a criminal offense. Because if there was any treaty between Nigeria and Cameroon, extradition treaty, what would have happened is that they would have gone to the Abuja High Court and had a hearing. No such thing took place. They were just adopted in a hotel, blindfolded, went and detained somewhere, blindfolded, thrown in a plane, blindfolded, and God knows they landed in Cameroon, not knowing where they were going. And it's only instead that they took out the mask, and they knew that they were now in Cameroon in detention.
All right, Barrister Fujon, so before we go, your take concerning the Anglophone General Conference that will be coming up later this November.
Yeah. As you can see, the All Anglophone conference that is being convened this November is being convened by those who have their ideology, the federalist ideology, and it concerns only them. Anybody hearing that, will they go and invite our people who are in the bushes? Will they go and invite our people who are in exile? Will they go and invite the refugees in Nigeria to come and attend? Mr. Munzo and Karnatumi and the moderator of the Presbyterian Church and those Muslims, they know what they are doing and engages only them. So I'm not going to make any further comment.
Barrister Fujonso, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us in this edition of the news. Goodbye.